the last thing I want to talk about before we get up on out of here, man, is that the Big Ten fanboys are greatly underestimating USC football going into this season, man. You got people saying that USC isn't going to be able to handle the physical style of play in the Big Ten. They're going to get bullied. They're going to get tossed around because they just aren't good up front. And I push back against those sentiments because the Big Ten is overrated. Because first of all, they don't have a lot of great offenses in this conference to begin with. Iowa went to the Big 12 or the Big 10 title game last year with a defense that scored more than their offense, and I'm not making that up. So if Iowa can make it to the Big 10 championship, you mean to tell me that USC isn't going to be able to have the ability to win at least 8 games in this conference? There's only been 3 teams in this conference that have mattered. Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan for the last 4 or 5 years. Outside of that, it's been a wash when it comes to the rest of the Big Ten. It's been fairly unwatchable. USC, the toughest games that they have to play, neutral site, week 1 against LSU, that's winnable because LSU and USC have the same concerns. How improved are their defenses going to be? Michigan on the road. You got Wisconsin at home. You got Penn State at home. So those are games that can be winnable, especially when you're going against little game James Franklin, who's probably the biggest fraud in all of college football. Maryland, Mike Locksley doesn't know how to beat good coaches against good teams. Washington's in a rebuilding year. Nebraska, that game can go either way, and Notre Dame probably will get the better of USC this year. But the ceiling for USC this year, to me, is 10 wins. The floor for them, at worst, is 8 wins because that this defense is going to improve with the talent that they have on that defensive staff now. And that's what I don't hear enough Big Ten fanboys talking about. They keep saying how Lincoln Riley doesn't know defense. He'll always have a bad defense. And that's just a lazy take because he's only had one defensive coordinator throughout his whole entire coaching career, dating back from his days at Oklahoma, and that was Alex Grinch. What did Alex Grinch want out of his players on defense? Smaller guys who were faster because he wanted to treat every play he called like it was a blitz. You bring in DeAnthony Lynn, who has an NFL background because his dad, DeAnthony Lynn, was a former NFL head coach. Lincoln Riley has been very vocal on making USC a bigger, stronger football team up front. The whole entire defensive line has gained a combined total of 340 pounds. Their strength and conditioning coach has been implementing a program that emphasizes getting stronger and building up strength. And for the guys who aren't able to gain weight, they get punished by having to do extra workouts. Lincoln Riley has made the necessary changes this offseason to prepare USC for the physical style of Big Ten football. And yes, there is going to be an adjustment that USC is going to have to make to the Big Ten. But the Big Ten is also going to have to adjust to USC. They don't see no Lincoln Riley offenses that often in this conference because offensive play isn't really that great. They haven't seen a receiver like a Zachariah Branch that is dynamic, especially with the ball in his hands, that has speed to take the defense, that has speed to take it to the crib anytime he touches the football. This dude is going to end up being one of the best receivers in college football this season. But yet, not enough people talk about Zachariah Branch. The only school in this conference that has had receivers as talented and dynamic as what Zachariah Branch is has been Ohio State, and that's about it. Penn State doesn't have good receivers. Their quarterback play looked really wonky as well. USC is being greatly underestimated going into the Big Ten, and they're about to humble the Big Ten this year because there's more to winning football games than just running the football a million bajillion times down somebody's throat. Like Michigan, we don't know how good their quarterback play is going to be. And I promise you that USC's defense isn't going to be bad enough where you're just going to be able to run it 40 times like how you did against Penn State and win the game barely throwing the football. If you want to beat USC, you're going to have to put up some points on this team. And you're going to have to be able to slow down their offense. And I don't see too many defenses being able to slow down Lincoln Riley's offense. Their offensive line has also improved as well. People have been stuck on narratives about Lincoln Riley that are outdated because he's made a lot of changes philosophy-wise. This isn't the same program that USC was the last 2 years that they are going into their first year of Big Ten play. And Lincoln Riley has won multiple conference titles when he was coaching at Oklahoma. He made it to the college football playoffs several times. I don't trust James Franklin to beat Lincoln Riley and USC when they end up having to make that road trip to the Coliseum. I also believe that they're going to be good enough to beat Michigan because Michigan, they got concerns when it comes to their quarterback play. And I don't think a school like Minnesota that doesn't have competent quarterback play is going to be able to just run the ball down USC's throat and win the game that way. Like, if you want to beat USC, you got to be able to throw the ball against them. Everybody they played last year that was beating them was doing it, throwing the ball through the air. Oregon, Washington, whoever. You don't have Alex Grinch calling the defense anymore. Not just that, but you have Doug Belk as your secondary coach. He was formerly the defensive coordinator of Houston, and he was a Jim Broyles finalist one of the years that he was the DC for Houston's defense when they had one of the best pass defenses in college football. They got Mike Entz as an assistant coach on that staff who spent the last couple of years at North Dakota State. He won 3 FCS titles. He was a former FCS Coach of the Year, and he had a 60-10 record there. He possibly left that North Dakota State job to join Lincoln Riley's staff with the possibility that maybe he ends up getting a head coaching job 2 or 3 years down the road. Lincoln Riley has assembled a really good coaching staff on the defensive side of the football that I think is going to pay dividends this year for USC. This could possibly be a top 60 defense this year, which I think is good enough considering that one of the biggest questions that a lot of these Big Ten teams have coming into this year is how good is their offense going to be? USC is going to humble the Big Ten a major way, and you Big Ten fanboys that keep saying that USC isn't good and they're not going to be ready to handle the physicality of this conference, you're severely overrating this conference, bro. You really are. I don't think that USC is going to fall off in the Big Ten. I think that last year was the reality check that Lincoln Riley needed to say that, okay, I need to change some things if I want to be able to win here.